Hello and welcome back to another demo video. In this video, I want to go over exercise 4-2B. That's exactly what we did in class. As I was thinking about it, I wanted to make sure that I did this in a video so you can go back and watch it and rewatch it and really understand what we're doing. Also, too, I noticed some of you guys had a little bit of problem with Excel because you never had an Excel class. That's okay. In this video as well, what I'm going to do is show you how to create our journal. Okay, so if you remember in class, we dealt with the Gray Company, right? They bought merchandise, they returned merchandise, then they finally paid the invoice. Okay, so I'm gonna go through that again step by step, and then if you remember in class, I said, hey, I want you to take this information and I want you to do it from the seller side, right? Well, I'm going to do that in here as well and kind of show you the difference between the two sides of basically the same transaction. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is very easy. You're going to want to merge and center cells. You're going to need to know how to do that, right? So you just click and drag. Okay, so I clicked A1 and drug the mouse all the way over to F1, and then if you click this button right here, it says merge and center. Click it and you merge and centered. Okay, now I'm going to type in Gray Company. Okay, the reason why is we're going to do all the transactions under the Gray Company, and then we're going to do all the same transactions that we did for Gray Company. We're going to do them again for the Never Company. Okay, so remember how a journal looks, right? A journal is just a page where we put our journal entries, right? Debits and credits. So we're going to have two accounts, we're going to debit account, we're going to credit another account. So I'm going to put in our date. Bear with me here. And then I need a space for our accounts, right? Oh, excuse me, our accounts. So I'm going to merge and center, and then I'm going to left align. If I don't left align, look what happens. Cash is in the middle, right, of the cell or of the row. I don't want that. I want it left aligned. Okay. So since this cell is already formatted, it's merged and centered, left aligned, I need to do it all the way down the sheet, right? We're just going to pick an arbitrary amount of space so we have enough for all our journal entries. Okay. In order for us to very easily format all the cells below B2, I'm going to put my mouse over the bottom right corner of cell B2, and notice how I have a little crosshairs there. Here I have a fat cross. Now I have little crosshairs. I'm going to click, hold down my mouse, and I'm going to drag all the way down. Okay. And I let go, and if you notice, all these cells now are are all formatted, merged and centered, left aligned. Okay. I'm going to put in my debit column. I'm going to put in my credit column. Now, this is kind of a pet peeve of mine. We need to make sure that all these numbers are formatted properly. Okay. So I'm going to click on F right here. I'm going to click and drag over to G. Okay. What I want to do is I want to make sure that any number I put in here is going to have commas, and it's not going to have any decimal places, right? Because all the problems that we do or we've done up to this point really don't have any sense, right? So there's no point of us having two decimal places, after the decimal, right? So I'm going to click my comma, which is right here, comma style, and I'm going to double click or click twice my decreased decimals, 1, 2, okay? And then I kind of want, or I do want my debits and credits centered. Just the titles, not the numbers. The numbers will come in as they should, okay? So I'm going to do the same thing for the Never Company, right? Date. I'm going to merge and center. I'm going to left align, and I'm going to click, keep the mouse button down, and I'm going to drag down just to format the rows below it, okay? I'm going to put in my debit column, my credit column, I want to make sure that these are centered, and I'm going to highlight row M and N, click my comma style, and decrease the decimal by 2 places. So I go 1, 2, okay? So let's look at gray, and let's look at their transactions, okay? So I have my date column, my account column, my debit, and my credit column, okay? Then let me do this here real quick. So I inserted a row. If you're not sure how to insert a row, okay, you want to right click and notice well, hold on. First thing we got to do is figure out where do we want the cell, right? If we're inserting a row, or rather a column here, we're always going to insert to the left. So what I did is on my mouse, or on my mouse pad, I right clicked and it brought up this menu. And then I have insert. So I click insert, and look what it did. It put a row right next to I, okay? So I don't need to, I just want one. So I'm going to select column I. I'm going to right click my mouse. I'm going to click delete, and I got rid of that extra column that I had. I'm going to change the width of this to 4. There's no reason for you, I mean, you should know how to do this. And again, I'm not looking for you to watch this, regurgitate everything, and give it back to me. I just want to do some videos demonstrating on what we can do with Excel. If you know this stuff, great, fast forward through it, get to the journal entries, okay? If you don't, watch it, take notes, practice. Simple as that, okay? So I'm going to make this, let's see, make it blue, okay? The reason why I made this blue is because I just want to specify that this is the journal for Gray Company, and I spelled that wrong. This over here is the journal for Never Company, okay? So on our homework problem, or not homework problem, on the B problems, right? It says that on 4/15, there we go. 4/15, they tell us that Gray Company bought merchandise from Never Company, cost $25,000. Terms were 210 net 30. Okay, so just like we mentioned in class, right? I just need to read the information they give us, and I need to interpret that, right? Bought merchandise inventory. Right off the bat, I know that merchandise inventory is an account that is going to be affected, okay? Well, I had to, so that's what I got, inventory, but I had to give something for that, right? Did I give anything? Well, it says that I didn't give cash, right? Because it didn't say bought merchandise from Never Company for $25,000. It just says bought merchandise from Never Company for $25,000, terms 210 net 30. When I see terms right off the bat, guess what I know? It's an accounts payable, okay? this Never company offered me credit, right? I says, I can't pay you now. I can pay you later. Never said that's fine. We'll give you terms. 210 net 30. Great. So here's what I'm going to do. I have already identified my two accounts, right? Inventory is going to be debited for $25,000. And I'm going to credit accounts payable. Remember, you always want to indent your credits. Accounts payable is going to be credited for $25,000. Okay? I need to put in an explanation. What happened here? Well, I'm going to italicize it because I like to just make it look different, right? And I'm going to say bought. I know that's not how you spell bought, but that's what we're going with. Bought merch on account, Never company. And I'm going to put in 210 net 30. Okay? So I know I put enough information in here that if I have to go back and find some details, it's there right in my ledger. Okay? So on 4/6, I apologize. I don't know why I made 15. There we go. Okay. There. Okay. So on 4/6, they say, hey, we paid shipping costs. It was $700. Okay. We know that we have to pay the shipping cost. Why? Because it was FOB shipping. Okay. If you don't know this, put it on a note card, study it, however you need to remember it. Just get it into that long-term memory, right? FOB shipping point. Who pays the shipping? The buyer does. FOB shipping point. When does ownership transfer? When it is shipped. Okay? So, we have FOB shipping point. They tell us on 4/6 we paid our shipping costs, right? From the buyer side, because that's what we're doing right now, just the buyer side. What we're going to do is we're going to pay for pay for the shipping costs. Remember, and this is a key concept that you need to remember, know, memorize, whatever. So if you need to, pull out another note card and write this down. This concept will become a lot more important when we get into advanced accounting classes. But as of right now, we need to know that when we buy merchandise, the cost of that merchandise is increased by any cost that is required for us to receive that merchandise, as well as any cost we incur to get that merchandise ready to be sold. Okay? I'll say that again. Our inventory cost increases by the amount of shipping costs that we have to pay or any cost we incur to get that inventory ready to be sold. Okay? So, obviously, I'm paying my shipping cost. Do not debit shipping expense, credit cash. Do not do that. Okay? What we have to do is reflect that the cost of our inventory is going up because of that shipping cost. I'm going to debit inventory for $700. I'm going to credit cash. Remember, indent. Type in my cash, credit $700. Okay. We need to put an explanation. Well, what did we do? We paid shipping costs, right? Just realized that inventory spelled wrong. That's embarrassing. There you go. There we go. Okay. So what we need to do is say, well, what happened? Well, we paid shipping costs for inventory. That's fine. If we want to add a little bit more detail, we could say paid shipping cost on Never Company order. When was the order made? Well, it was on April 5th. Okay. Again, I'm putting detail in here. What did I do? I paid shipping costs, right? On the Never Company order. Okay, well, when did I order that, right? Well, I ordered it on, or I received it, got the, did my order, got my purchase invoice on 4/15, or 4/5, excuse me, April 5th, okay? Skip a space, all right? So what are we doing here? Well, they tell us that on 4/8, what happened was we at the Gray Company realized that we have a return, right? We got some merchandise. It was damaged. We called Never Company and said, hey, we have damaged merchandise that we had purchased from you. We're not going to take it. Never Company says, not a problem. We will give you a $3,000 credit. Okay? So, this transaction that we did on 4/8, or that we're going to do on 4/8, was based on what we did on 4/5. 4/5, we debited inventory, increased our inventory, and we increased our accounts payable. Based on that transaction of that $25,000 worth of inventory, $3,000 of it was damaged. We don't want it. We're sending it back to you, or we're sending it back to Never Company. So we need to undo a portion, specifically $3,000 worth of the transaction that we did on April 5th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recognize that my inventory is going down by $3,000. My accounts payable is also going down by $3,000, right? I bought 25 grand from them, so I owe them $25,000. $3,000 worth of that merchandise, I said, I'm not paying for. I'm sending it back to you because it's damaged. They said, okay, we'll give you a credit. So I'm going to debit my accounts payable for $3,000. Okay. I'm going to credit inventory for $3,000. Okay. So let's think about, let's stop and think, what have we done so far, right? Because as we're doing this, we're posting all of these transactions to the ledger, right? So I want to move over and I'm going to create two T accounts. Okay, how do you create a T account? Well, very simple. Here's how I do it. I pick two cells. I'm going to pick Q3 and R3. I'm going to click Merge and Center. I'm going to type in inventory. Okay. I want to make sure that I have a bottom border underneath inventory. How do I get that? I come right up here to my ribbon and notice it says bottom border. Just click on it. Okay. I want to make sure that I have area for my debits and credits, right? I'm just going to arbitrarily pick a number of rows here, okay? I'm going to put my left align border in. And again, how I did that was I came up here to my borders and I just clicked the chevron down, said, hey, give me left align. I now have a debit and credit, or debits and credit column for the T account. I want to create one for accounts payable. I'm not going to go through that entire step again. Watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to right click my mouse. I'm going to click copy from the menu that pops up. I get my Dancing Ants line. I'm going to come over to T3. I'm going to right click my mouse and I'm going to say paste. I'm going to hit enter. It gets rid of the dancing ants on the T account that we copied. I'm going to change this name to accounts payable. So what did we do first, right? Well, on 4/5, we debited inventory for $25,000. We credited accounts payable for $25,000. Okay. On 4/6, we paid shipping costs. Remember, shipping costs increased our inventory cost by $700. So I'm going to debit inventory $700. I need to credit cash, right? I don't need that here because it's not part of what we're looking at, okay? But just know I would need to post that cash credit to the cash T account or to the cash ledger, whichever we're using, okay? What's my balance of inventory? And I'm just going to put a bottom border here just to show that I'm making a calculation. Well, equals 25,000 plus what is that, Q5, 25,700. Okay, that's the balance right now of my inventory. On 4/15, I said, hey, or I'm sorry, on 4/8, I said, hey, merchandise is damaged. I'm sending $3,000 of it back. I credited inventory, $3,000, and I debited accounts payable, $3,000. Okay? After I send this back, what is the balance of my inventory? Well, I have $27,000 or $25,700 of a debit. I credit that for $3,000, so I need to subtract that $3,000. I have $22,700 worth of inventory. What is my accounts payable now? My accounts payable balance is going to be, well, I did owe them $25,000. I told them I am not going to pay them for $3,000 worth of merchandise. I'm sending it back to them. They said, okay, we'll give you a credit. So that means that I have to debit accounts payable. My accounts payable balance is $22,000. Okay? This is important. Here's why. Let's go back to Gray Company and let's look at what happens on 4/15. 4/15, we pay our invoice, okay? But remember, what we booked right here on April 5th says that, yeah, we bought merch on account from the Never Company, 210 net 30. Am I within my discount period? Yes, I am. Okay. So, right off the bat, because I'm paying this, I need to decrease my accounts payable. Right? I'm paying them cash, so I need to credit cash. Okay? I am taking a discount. I know that because I'm in the discounted period. Remember, purchase, returns, allowances, discounts, all that stuff, we're going to keep track of it within inventory because it's decreasing our inventory account. Okay? So there's our debits and our credits. Now we got to figure out how much. Well, very easy. What's my discount? Well, I'm paying, or I'm receiving 2% of a discount on what I owe them. Okay? So what, in fact, do I owe Never Company? Well, My accounts payable balance is $22,000. So I'm going to come right where I need my debit to be. I'm going to say equals. I'm just going to select this $22,000, and then I'm going to click Shift 8 to get my multiplication. 0.02. So my discount is $440. Okay. Now, if you'll notice, I put that in the wrong spot, right? We need to decrease our inventory, not debit it, and I put that in the accounts payable line. So we need that in our inventory credit for $440. Okay. My accounts payable, I am paying that. What is it on my books? $22,000. I need to decrease it by $22,000. Okay. How much cash am I paying? Well, I'm paying $22,000 minus $440. My cash payment is $21.56. Okay. And I just want to make sure I indent. Okay. So, what's my explanation here? Well, my explanation here says that I paid Never Company for 4-5 order. And that's it. Okay. I notice here, and I apologize, I forgot to put in my explanation, right? Remember, we always want to skip a space between our journal entries, okay? So I need to insert a row here. How do I do that? Very simple. I'm going to click on this 13, and I'm going to highlight the entire row. On my mouse, I'm going to right-click. I'm going to say Insert, and it puts a column, or I'm sorry, it puts a row above where I was. So I was in 13 originally. What it did was it inserted a row above that, okay? Notice this is not formatted properly, so I'm just going to go ahead and format that very easily. So I need to put an explanation for what happened on 4.8. Well, what happened on 4.8? We returned damaged merchandise, and we received a credit. So that's what I'm going to say. Returned merch to Never Company, $3,000 credit. Okay. There we go. All right. So now we're good here. I hope, I think. If not, go back, rewatch. You got to memorize this stuff. Okay. Look at what the explanation says, meaning what does the problem say we did? Think about that. Think about it in terms of debits and credits. What accounts are being hit? Are they going up? Are they going down? Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to look at the same transactions from the seller side. So we're going to look at the same transactions from the sell of Never Company. Okay. So first off, we're going to say 4-5. What did we do? We had a sale. We sold merchandise to somebody. Great. We also need to recognize the cost of that. Okay? So, first let's book the revenue portion of that, or the sales amount. Okay? So, what am I receiving? Am I getting cash? No. Because we have a sales invoice, I can see that I offered Gray Company credit, terms 210 net 30. You might say, well, how do you know that? Well, I know based on the problem, based on it from Gray's side, that Gray received the purchase invoice. That purchase invoice shows credit terms because the buyer has credit terms, guess what? The seller also has a credit terms, okay? So we're looking at the flip side of everything. If a buyer has a purchase invoice with credit terms, guess what the seller's going to have? Sales invoice with the same credit terms, okay? So what two accounts are being hit? Well, obviously, sales revenue, because I'm making a sale. I'm not getting cash, but I offered them terms, so that's a receivable to me because I am now the seller, okay? So I'm going to debit accounts receivable for the same $25,000. For the same $25,000, I'm going to credit sales revenue or sales. It doesn't matter. If I type in sales, I know it's sales revenue, okay? For $25,000. $25,000, okay? Now, what am I going to do here? What's the explanation? Hey, sold merch on account, right? To who? Gray Company. And I'm going to put in those credit terms. 210 net 30, right? As much information as I can put in here without writing a book, that's what I want to do, okay? The second thing I need to do on 4.5, whenever a merchandiser has a sale, because we're doing perpetual inventory system, I got to recognize the sale and the cost, right? So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to debit COGS for the cost of the merchandise. I don't know what the cost is. The problem didn't tell me, right? That's okay. I'm just going to put 4 X's. All right. That's just so I know that I need to debit cost of goods sold. Okay. This is just for explanation purposes. COGS. So this is an expense account. Okay. What am I going to credit? Well, guess what? I have inventory too, right? I produce stuff. I make stuff. I'm a wholesaler. I buy stuff. I have inventory too. I'm taking my inventory and selling it to somebody else, okay? So I need to credit my inventory for the cost of that merchandise. Again, I'm going to put in 4 X's, okay? It's just so we know this is the journal entry we absolutely have to make. It doesn't have a dollar amount. Please don't let that confuse you. It doesn't have a dollar amount in this example. However, it would normally, okay? So let's see what happens on 4.6. Well, the buyer paid the shipping cost, right? It's FOB shipping point. I am a seller. I am not responsible for paying for any selling cost when it's FOB shipping point. I leave that blank, okay? Now, 4.8. Return damaged merchandise, $300. Now, this is important, okay? This is very important. So on 4.8, what am I going to do as the seller? As the seller, I need to recognize that somebody is giving me back more merchandise. Somebody's decreasing their accounts receivable. My cost of goods sold are going down, and I have a sales returns and allowances. Okay? So let's think about it this way. When we booked the sale, we had this transaction to recognize the sale, right? I need to undo $3,000 of that. Why? Because $3,000 of merchandise that I sold was damaged. The buyer said, I'm not buying this from you, right? They send it back to us. We need to do the journal entry. So the first thing we need to do is undo a portion of the sales amount. Okay? How do I do that? Very easy. I am never, ever, ever going to touch my sales account, right? If I'm a seller, I don't touch my sales account. We introduced this new account, this contra revenue account called sales returns and allowances. Okay? I'm going to debit that for $3,000. Okay? I don't have that sales anymore, right? I decreased it by sales returns and allowances. Well, what else don't I have anymore? Well, this Gray did owe me $25,000. I said I am going to offer them a credit, right? Meaning you don't owe me as much. So what do? I need to credit my accounts receivable. For how much? $3,000. Okay, not done yet. I also need to recognize the fact that I got to put in an explanation here. So what's my explanation? Well, what happened? Issued a return to Gray for damaged merchandise. Okay? So, because I don't have that cell anymore, what's happening? Well, the cost of goods that I recognized for this cell doesn't exist anymore. So now I'm going to go and undo a portion of the cost that I recognized when I made the sell. How do I do that? I just undo what I did up here. So I need to recognize that I'm getting inventory back. For how much? $3,000. And I'm going to credit my cost of goods sold. I need to decrease my cost of goods sold, which are $3,000. Okay? So, and again, this happened on 4/8. Okay. So, real quick, I want to come over here and I'm going to just copy and paste this down. Again, I don't expect you to do this. I just expect you to watch, take notes, understand what's going on, write down any questions that you may have, and we'll talk about it in class on Monday. Okay? So here what I want to do is I just want to demonstrate the accounts receivable that I have. I'm just going to abbreviate and say AR. Okay? So let's think about what happened here, right? What happened? Well, originally, I was owed $25,000, right? However, this Gray company returned $3,000. So guess what? They don't owe me $25,000 anymore. They owe me $25,000 minus $3,000. So what's my balance? $2,200 or $22,000. This is the same as the accounts payable on Gray's company. Okay, so we're just looking at the flip side. From the buyer side, we had a $3,000 debit to accounts payable. The accounts payable that they owed Never Company is $22,000. Well, on Never Company, hey, Gray owed us $25,000. They returned $3,000 worth of merchandise. So guess what? They don't owe us they owe us $3,000 less. They owe us $22,000. Okay. So if we look here, we see that on 4/15, we receive payment, right? On 4/15, Gray Company paid their invoice to us, okay? We saw how to book it from the buyer side. Now let's see, how do we book this from the seller side, okay? Well, again, if we think about what happened, Gray Company paid us for the sell that we made on 4/5, right? So what am I getting? Well, I'm definitely getting cash, right? Because they're paying me, right? What else is happening here? Well, they're getting a discount, right? They're definitely getting a discount. So we're going to book that as a sales discount. Oh, sorry. Sales discount. Okay. And then what else is happening? Well, we don't have that receivable anymore, right? They owed us, which we already determined was $22,000. They don't owe us $22,000 anymore. So I'm going to credit my AR account. Come over here. Okay? So how much cash are we receiving? Well, I could just look at my payables and plug it in, but we're not going to do that, right? How much do I need to get the accounts receivable off the books for? I need to get the accounts receivable off the books for the actual amount that they owe me. They owe me $22,000. So I'm going to credit accounts receivable for $22,000. Okay. What's the sales discount? The sales discount has to be $440 because we already calculated that in the previous problem. So how much cash am I getting? Well, $22,000 minus the sales discount that I offered them. Why did that not work? Bear with me here. Okay. So I want this value to go in N17, right? That's the cell we're in right here. Equals. I'm going to click on O19, which has my 22,000. I'm going to subtract out my $440, which is cell reference N18. Hit enter. That's the cash that I received. Okay? So compare what the buyer did with what the seller did. It's virtually the same transaction, right? It's virtually the same. It's just the flip side, right? We are receiving cash because we are the seller. The buyer is paying cash. It's the same amount of cash, right? The accounts payable goes down by the amount that's on the books. The accounts receivable goes down by the amount that we have on our books. The only difference is the seller side says we have to recognize and separately keep track of sales discounts. So this is another contra revenue account, just like sales discounts and allowances. Okay. One more thing I want to show you. Let's just take the seller side here. Okay. I have 2 debits and 1 credit. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click auto sum. I'm going to come over to my credit side and click auto sum. They're both $22,000 just for this transaction. That's all we're looking at. Forget this stuff. We're just looking right here. After every transaction, debits and credits have to equal, okay? So is a good check. After you do these journal entries, check to make sure debits and credits equal. After each transaction, do my debits and credits equal? Yep, okay. More than likely, I'm 99% positive I did this correctly, okay? Again, what's your takeaway? What accounts are hit? So here's what I would do if I were you. These journal entries from the buyer side and the seller side, yeah, I get it. It can be kind of confusing. I understand that. I do. I know. I've been through this just like you. So here's what I would do. On my note card, or I would get a note card, and I would write down, here is the buyer's side. I got a debit accounts payable for how much? Whatever the account payable balance is. I need to credit inventory for how much? The amount of the discount. Obviously, I need to credit cash, right? I would do the same thing with the seller side. From the seller side, when they receive a payment with credit terms, I have to credit cash. I have to debit cash. I have to debit my sales discounts and allowances by the amount of the discount. On that little note card, I would also say that, oh, sales discounts, that's a contra revenue account. So it has to have a debit balance. And then I'd say, oh, I'm not owed this money anymore. I got to credit my AR. If you do this, if you study this, if you memorize this, I promise you, you'll get 100%. I promise you. Just trust the process. All right. Okay. So that's kind of the journal entries. The one we did in class and the one I wanted you to work on your own. But here is the video demonstrating how to do all that. You have it. You have this resource. Put it on note cards and memorize it. Okay? So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in our next demo videos that we do. I hope that you became a little bit familiar with how to use Excel and some of the buttons and all that other good stuff. If you have any questions, please feel free and reach out to me. Totally not a problem. By the way, tell you what I'll do. If you do what I said, right? Pull out a note card. Write down the buyer's transactions. Write down the seller's transactions, meaning, debit this, credit that. Here's what this means. Here's what that means. I'll give you 2 bonus points. Okay? Bring it into class on Monday. All right? And this is only good for Monday. So if you come in on Monday and say, I forgot it, too bad, so sad, so sorry. All right. So if you need anything in the meantime, please feel free and reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to lend you a hand. All righty. We'll see you in our next video.